Okay, perfect.
Oh,
Just give
something's
it.
recording.
Awesome.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yay.
Yeah. All right. If you could just keep your chat box open so I can give you time cues, that'd be greatly appreciated. And
Yes.
we're good to start.
Okay. Thank you
Hi,
so much. Hi. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Hot
of course.
Wheels is so much. It's so much fun, and I really do
Thank
enjoy it.
you.
One of the things that is fascinating is, you know, you are consistent. You're the consistent judge on the show. And therefore, I was wondering, since we have rotating like, guest judges, how do you kind of help them along with that consistent knowledge that you bring when it comes to making the choice of who wins or who doesn't?
Actually, we don't vote as a collective. We vote independently. So whatever our guest or whomever our guest judge wants to vote for, that's kind of on them. And then everything gets tallied by someone else on the production team. So we don't really have a say in who they vote for. We let them come in and, just feel it with their heart, which vehicle they felt like had the biggest transformation or really told the superfan story the best. That's really up to them.
Without any kind of episode or naming names, would any time that you feel like they got it wrong or got it right?
And on top of that, we don't know who they voted for. So if you've seen the show, there's that moment where Rut is gearing up to tell everyone who won. We
Mhm.
don't know until he says it. We have no idea. So it's just as suspenseful as for us as it is for everyone else. So even if they did, there are some episodes where I'm like, I think this one should have won. I won't know who everybody else voted for unless they tell me.
So you have a background, obviously, in designing real cars for Ford Motor Company. I was wondering, even though this is technically a small scale model, do you look at the car, the Hot Wheels, the exact same way that you would look at a real car? Or do you kind of judge on a curve or give some type of adage to it because this is technically a toy?
Yeah, we judge them. It's funny, we judge them kind of similarly, but also very different because there is that nuance of the fact that it is meant to be a toy. It's meant to be fun and exciting. It does not have to be road legal, it doesn't have to be street legal, it doesn't have to be race legal. You can be as imaginative as you want. And
Mhm.
so we take the lens of automotive design a lot when we talk about things like silhouette and flow and how body lines are supposed to move and the fitment of wheels. But then when it comes to things like just how fun is it, how bold and exciting it is, how much does it speak to the Hot Wheels brand, then we're really thinking like toy designers more than we are automotive designers.
Right. Now, you lived both in America and also in Sudan. And so I was wondering with the car culture, do you ever find yourself kind of blending in the different cultures? And has it ever impacted you in either your design or how you just look at a car or the Hot Wheels in general?
That's a really good question. In Sudan, importing of vehicles is a little bit more difficult. So you don't see a lot of newer cars, and there are brands of vehicles that you see there that you don't see here, and vice versa. For example, there are no BMWs in Sudan, I don't think. Like, very rarely do you see a BMW. So it's a very different automotive culture. And there's also, because the cars are older, they're a little bit more plug and play, whereas these newer vehicles today have a lot of like electronic components that it's harder for the home mechanic or the DIYer to really get in there and mess around with. Whereas in Sudan, you can be in the backyard reconstructing the frame of your car, you and your brother, like just hanging out. So it's a very different culture, and it's a scrappier culture. Because Sudan is considered, quote, the third world, and necessity breeds innovation. I do like to take this approach of this DIY and finding clever hacks, if you will, for certain design choices. So that I think helps. I think someone once described my undergrad cohort as being scrappy, and I really like that phrase because it's not like an expensive or an elitist school, but because we had a lack of resources, we could kind of rethink the way that things were done. So I think I bring that a lot. That's something that I like to blend into, America's automotive culture, which I think that's also pretty healthy here in the US. The culture of car modification has a lot of that scrappiness, which I really appreciate.
Now, being a part of Hot Wheels Ultimate Challenge, I was wondering, looking at these, you would say kind of like a DIY in a way. How do you feel that that has impacted the future of car design?
The DIY.
In terms of being on this show, do you look at the future of car design differently?
Oh, that's a good question. The thing about automotive modification is a lot of times it's happening on older cars. So you're not going to see, I mean, you might, but you won't often see a new car off the lot 2023, 2024, someone putting a body kit on it. It just doesn't happen too often. But honestly, now you're getting, the gears are moving in my head. I'm like, maybe that's something that we should kind of revert back to. Maybe cars should be built simpler. Sometimes I do think about how difficult it is to work on your own vehicle. It's such a gate-kept industry, the mechanics of a car. And I think engineering has only made it more difficult. So maybe it's time to bring it back to, the 80s when things were just like, plug in your alternator and keep it moving.
Great. So with that also, design and also creativity is subjective. One person may like something, and the other one is like, this is terrible. But
Right.
with that, and also with judging on a show, what still is the essentials to not only a Hot Wheels product, but to car design in general?
Right, that's a great question. We actually go in and we have a list of criteria that we're judging based off of, and we tally up our score at the end of it to make the decision on who won. So we're looking at things like, how original is this concept? Does it look like something we've never seen before? How well is it executed? Are the lines clean? Are the materials well finished? Are the surfaces well executed? How hot is it? Meaning, how well does it speak to the Hot Wheels brand language? Is it bold? Is it vibrant? Is it loud? Does it have those crazy elements like the exposed engine, like crazy exhaust, things like bright flames or Spectraflame paint? Those are the things that we're really looking for. And of course, how transformed is it? And how much of that superfan story has actually been implemented into the design? Those are the criteria that's really important to us. Now, of course, in automotive design, you're not thinking about all those things necessarily. You're thinking about a vehicle program and looking 5-10 years out, and what the industry might need then and what level of autonomy we're going to be working on. So it's almost two separate worlds, but it's a lot of fun.
So for the average person looking at this and it triggers something in their brain, I really want to get into car design now. Is there a path forward that is kind of not necessarily easy, but that they can get their foot into the door to do?
Yeah, I got into automotive design, I tell everyone, in the most boring way, which is that I just went to school for it. I went to school for it and I had to put in the hours and I built the portfolio. But of course, I know design school is incredibly expensive and it's not easy. So I would tell people, if that's not the path that you want to take, start practicing. Thankfully, there are so many tutorials online, and places like YouTube are full of a large breadth of different videos and sketching tutorials where you can kind of learn the way that automotive designers sketch cars, because it's not a normal type of drawing. There are these automotive tricks that help us convey information. So if you really want to put in that 10,000 hours and build a portfolio and start sending out your work, I think there's a real pipeline into the industry. It's not easy. It's going to take a lot of time.
How has car design brought out either your personality or changed your design throughout the years?
What's interesting about being in this space is that there is a lot of restriction, which is not something I realized when I was in school. There is a lot of obviously legal implications when we're thinking about things like self-driving or the safety of your driver and your passenger. So you don't get to be as blue sky as maybe I got to be when I was in school, and certainly not as blue sky as we are on the show. So it's really helped me be more creative in the way that I get around certain rules and certain restrictions and certain guidelines. So I think it's really helped me exercise my muscle in these tight constraints.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thank
I
you.
love the show. I love
Thank you.
Thank you.